Welcome, students. We're going to take some notes on Congress, the Senate, and the House of Representatives, known as congressmen. Both of those mixed together is known as the legislature, but we generally just call it Congress. So, title of these notes is Congress. What is Congress? As I mentioned, the legislative branch responsible for making the laws of the U.S. That's the biggest responsibility, making those laws. It's made up of the House of Representatives and the Senate. As you can see in the Constitution, we have three branches of government. We have the judicial branch, where the Supreme Court judges sit. We have the executive branch, where the White House is, the presidency. And then we have the legislative branch, which has two houses. You have over here, you have the Senate, and then over here you have the House of Representatives. What do they do exactly in the Capitol building? They represent constituents, which means that they represent the people that vote for them. They represent their districts. They represent their state. They write and pass laws. That's the biggest thing that they do, is passing laws, writing laws to be passed. And not all laws are passed. Actually, quite a few actually make it to be a law. Serve on committees, those committees to pass laws or those committees to do certain things. They serve on those committees. They also meet with lobbyists and special interest groups. Those are the things that we don't like that much about Congress, but are a necessity in Congress. Those lobbyists and special interests that represent certain causes. They meet with those, and they used to meet in the lobby of the Capitol building. That's why they're called lobbyists. But those special interest groups will alert the congressmen to certain things so that they can vote and be on committees on certain issues. So what are the powers of the Congress? Well, the powers of the Congress, you have the power to tax. That's pretty important. That power to tax the people and how much to tax the people and such. The borrowing power, so they get to borrow money, borrowing from other countries, borrowing from individuals within the United States, that borrowing power. For example, during times of war, they'll sell Liberty bonds, and those bonds are not a tax, it's borrowing from the American people. So the American people will give money to the Congress for a cause, and they'll get back with interest. You also have the commerce power, and that's a pretty important power that has grown to be bigger than what it was originally intended in the Constitution. That's the power of Congress to regulate interstate and foreign trade. The federal government cannot regulate trade within a state. That's up to the state level. But if trade exists between two states or out of a state, then it becomes a federal issue, that commerce power. And things like, because of our globalization of our economy and because of online market, so much is outside of the state. And so that commerce power is really big. You also have the power to declare war, so declaring war on another country. We talked about the War Powers Act in contemporary U.S. history and how that definitely has limited the power of the presidency with using troops, that they need permission to actually declare war. You also have the naturalization process by which citizens of one country become citizens of another. And so that naturalization process they also do for citizenship. And they also have expressed and implied powers, which again is kind of that broad range of powers that is not specifically in the Constitution, but whenever the government feels like something is implied, they take advantage of that. Then we have the House versus the Senate. So what's the difference between the two? The House of Representatives, known as congressmen, there are 435 members. They serve 2-year terms. So every 2 years, they are up for vote, whether it's a presidential election or a gubernatorial election for governor, they are also running for re-election. It's based on population, so California is going to have quite a few more representatives than a state like Wyoming will. They have unique powers, bring charges of impeachment, so they are the only ones that can start the impeachment process. They also originate tax bills, power of the purse. So anything that's a tax bill, they have to start. But you also have the Senate, known as the upper house. The House of Representatives, the congressmen, are the lower house. There's more of them. The senators are more prestigious because there's fewer of them. 100 members, 6-year terms, so it's longer election cycle. Equal reps, 2 per state. So each state is represented equally within the Senate. The unique powers is they get to actually try the impeachments. And so with the case of Donald Trump, the House of Representatives passed articles of impeachment against him, but it was the Senate to actually try those impeachment hearings, and he was let off from that. We have never had a Senate actually fully convict a president. Andrew Johnson missed it by 1 vote in the Senate. They also advise and consent. They also approve high-level appointments. They also they can also approve treaties. Now, both of these houses, you can run unlimited times. There are no term limits. So even though your term is 2 years for Congress or House and 6 years for Senate, you can run as many times as you like. And so those are the powers, so to speak, between the two. Both have the power to introduce bills, and both must pass all laws. So a bill can start in the House, or a bill can start in the Senate, as long as it's not a tax bill in the Senate. And both houses trade the bill and pass the bill to the other house to get passed as well. If there's changes needed, then there's a process to do that, and we'll look at that later. So why do we have 2 houses? This is called bicameral. Bi meaning 2. Why do we have 2? Well, historic reasons. Founders based U.S. system on Britain's Parliament. Britain's Parliament has the House of Lords, which is the upper house, like the Senate. They also have the House of Commons, which is the lower house, much like our House of Representatives. It was a compromise between New Jersey, the smaller states that wanted equality, like the Senate, and the Virginia plan that wanted population. Additional check within the government. So again, having that balance of power, that it's not just the big states like California and New York and Florida that are mainly focused on passing laws, but it's also the smaller states that are also representative through the Senate. Who serves in Congress? Formal qualifications. You must be 25 years of age, 7 years a citizen and resident of the state. Senate, you must be 30 years of old, 9 years a citizen in the United States, and you must actually live or have an address within that state. Both now popularly elected by the people. It used to be that the Senate was elected by state legislators, but now both are popularly elected by the people. You don't need to necessarily know those specifically for the test. Who serves in Congress? Well, term length. Each term, Congress lasts for 2 years. Each year is its own session. Special sessions called an emergency. So Congress will meet. However, they can meet under special circumstances, an emergency. For example, the Pearl Harbor attacks that were happening, the Congress had to meet under special emergency to declare war. 1/3 of senators up for election every 2 years, as was mentioned, class 1, 2, and 3. You have different classes of senator election. Continuous body. All of its seats are never up for election at the same time. So there's never any of them that are all of them elected at the same time. Members sworn in January. Okay. So just having a general idea of that. You don't need to write down word for word. Who serves in Congress? Well, we have reapportionment, redistributing the seats in the House after each decennial election. So depending on the census, there will be a dividing of the who has what number of seats. This is the 2010 census. The 2020 census is up. You can look at that as well. There was a Reapportionment Act of 1929 that stated that. So understanding that every so often the House is going to fluctuate as far as members of seats per state. And so if one state goes up, another state might go down because there's only 435 seats available. We don't add seats. If we add a seat to one state, we have to take away a seat from another state. Who serves in Congress? Congressional districts. As you can see right here, we have different districts in California, over 50 there, you can tell. The 53rd district is down there in downtown San Diego. The East County San Diego is the 50th district, as you can see there. A little bit closer, you can see those different districts there. So we have gerrymandering, drawing districts for political party advantages. So as you see right here, the lines aren't really, they're based on not geography but demographics. So as you can tell, the 51st seat, or the 51st district, is mainly Latino. You have it running across the border, also in Imperial County, and that's to really galvanize them together and really represent them well as a people group. You have the city of San Diego, two different parts there, kind of more of the Chula Vista National City, and then you also have the city of San Diego. But then you have the 50th district, which is the East County, up into Poway and Fallbrook and such, that's represented as a 50th district. So typically those who drive big trucks and go the desert are more of the 50th district, versus those who drive high-profile cars would maybe be more of the 52nd district. So the gerrymandering, as you can see right here, has happened pretty crazy there. It's the malapportionment, disproportionate numbers of people in each district is something that's not a positively looked thing, but it happens. Westbury versus Sanders declared one person, one vote. So each district can't have disproportionate number of votes based on population is what it has to be. One person, one vote. You have some more gerrymandering, as you can see right here, where they draw the lines for Republican versus Democrat and Independent. That's how they do the gerrymandering. As you can see right here, it really doesn't, without those lines, have really much of a rhyme or reason.